My name is Alexander. I'm working for ING in the commercial real estate department. So the major part I'm doing is I'm responsible for sustainability and innovation to make sure that the lending portfolio of ING is, of course, decarbonizing. So we're talking a lot of decarbonization and ESG. We're covering 15 countries. We do 4 major asset classes: office, retail, logistics, multifamily. And it's especially in the ESG part, so sustainability, but also managing climate risk, a huge topic to do that for Australia, Asia, EMEA, US, because you have different speeds in the different markets. Looking first maybe at the investors, the good thing I see in the market that sustainability is, of course, a topic everybody is now aware of. So there was a long time that people were not really picking that up. Some people were just focusing on the labeling. They were just saying, okay, it's a green asset, so it's higher value, it's more attractive to the tenants. But now we see there are more elements in there, like the climate risk, like, of course, the question of decarbonization and the cost which is linked to that, so all the capex part. So the investors are getting to the topic. We still have a lot of discussions about the yields and who has to pay for the transition. The other part, the tenants, a lot of tenants, and we're talking here about mainly the corporate tenants, they have sustainability strategies. They are looking for sustainable / energy efficient buildings. They also want to put it in their own reporting and telling the world we are sustainable, and we, of course, put our money where our mouth is, and we're renting office spaces in sustainable buildings. So there is a demand also from the occupier side, and it has been there in the past. It will continue because it's also linked to costs. The operational costs are split between the landlord and the tenant, so the tenant has also an interest to have a sustainable and energy efficient building. I think a key player is the regulation here. The regulation has set some very important targets and benchmarks, and we have the EU with the EU taxonomy, with the Green Deal, with the decarbonization based on the Paris targets. I think that is a really strong push for many industries, but especially also for the real estate sector, because there are now definitions in there. Where do we have to be? What is defined as green? And we can now work towards those targets. So the regulation is helping. The regulation is also pushing us more to focus. There's new regulation coming with EPBD, etc. So I think it requires a lot of knowledge. And then there are the banks at the end, amongst many others. We are as a receiving end. So when it comes to the data, when it comes to the regulation, we are the part in that whole process who is going to execute that. So we're providing the lending. We have to have our green finance frameworks in place. We need to identify what is green for us. But we also are part of the transition and of this whole process. So if we provide the funding for the transition from brown to green, if we provide attractive funding for assets which are already fulfilling criteria of sustainability, then we can make the change as well. I think there's really a strong commitment to that sustainability part. So I wouldn't say that is greenwashing, because, as I said, it's also attached to costs. It's also attached to the expenditure on an operational basis every month for the heating, for the cooling of a building. And if that is inefficient, it also targets the budget of the companies. So they have an intrinsic motivation to have a sustainable asset. And I think, of course, it reads nicely in sustainability reports of large corporates. But in the end, it is also the question from their clients, from the consumers. So if you are a consumer of Siemens or of Bosch or of BMW or you name it, any company, and you know this company is not acting according to sustainability targets, it's not putting that also into the heart of their businesses, then you might not buy the products. You might think of, there are some others which are doing more on that side. So I will focus on them. And where they are located, what kind of office they are using, that is also their kind of presentation to their customers. I think the major topic is about construction. So, and there are many solutions out there if we're looking on new construction, that everything we construct, it should be as energy efficient as possible. The challenge is there's so many regulations out there, which makes it very complex. So a reduction in the complexity for new construction will help. It will help also on the social challenges we have with housing. We have a shortage on affordable housing for the people in Europe and many other places of the world. So I think there the regulation needs to change a bit. I think that if we look on the office sector, if you look on the decarbonization there, the technology is there. We have so many options what we can do with a building. We can exchange the windows and the rooftops, etc. We can put solar panels on to produce renewable energy on the ground, which is also helping. Of course, we need to focus on energy efficiency of buildings, and this technology is there. Also for office and also for retail properties, I think the funding is there. If the assets are in the right location, I think there you really have a good opportunity to transform. The challenge is more for the retail sector. So in retail, I'm talking about the private individuals with their private homes, with their apartments in a big apartment block. I think that is more challenging because there is no huge market. So there we need support from a funding perspective, maybe from a tax relief perspective, state subsidies, different regulations. So there's a lot of work to be done to get also this market more moving, to get to net zero. And the net zero, to be fair, this is not only on the real estate sector, this is also based on the energy sector, because we always, and we just had some nice discussions, will have energy consumption in buildings. It will never be zero. So we need to make sure that the energy we consume is renewable. I've been last week to a conference in London. I was overwhelmed by the number of participants. Comparable to GRI, there were only experts. There was a lot of entrepreneurs, startups, prop tech companies showing the examples and products they have. I think the data part is the key part for the real estate sector. We still don't fully understand the assets we have. And we realize that in our own portfolio by getting more and more information, data points into systems, and then we look at the decarbonization of the portfolio, we realize, we're getting better. The portfolio has not changed significantly, but the data quality has improved. So that helped a lot. I think all the sensors which are out there, and maybe also artificial intelligence by modeling potential behavior, these are elements which are really, really helpful. I had a discussion about hotels saying there is heating, cooling on all day. No one is in the room, but maybe with sensors, you can identify is the room empty, yes or not, and just automatically switch off. And then when the guest just taps the card in the elevator, it switches on again. These kind of things will help us. So these are technical solutions. From a bank's perspective, we are mainly looking on platforms, tools to monitor and to manage the data and to get an idea what kind of CapEx strategies do we need, what are the costs for these. So a lot of modeling and a lot of data are required for, at least for us at the bank, looking at innovation, to use the tools and to get to net zero also in the portfolio. First of all, it brings me to Paris every year. This is one of the greatest things. No, this is really great. So getting into a fantastic place, it's a fantastic location. So getting in here already gives me this, okay, this is a very professional event. You can meet the top people in the market, and the top people of the industry. Yeah, you have all kinds of participants. You have the asset managers, you have the bankers, of course, you have the equity providers, you have specialists, researchers. So you get a lot of conversations on a very, very high level. And you also have decision makers. So you can also start connecting, especially on the topic of sustainability, which is close to my heart because it's my day job, but it's really also my intrinsic motivation to change something in the real estate industry. And I can connect here with the relevant people. I have contacts here, and it's also good to meet former colleagues or people from last year catching up, saying hi. So it feels a little bit of also a homecoming event. And yeah, it's professionally organized. I really like the setup. So yeah.